Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this press conference. My name is Jen Nessel, and I'm with the Center for Constitutional Rights. Today, you'll hear from clients and attorneys in the case Defense for Children International v. Biden. Our speakers today are Wael El-Bahesi, Bassem El-Khara, Ayman Nijim, our wonderful clients in the case, and our legal director, Bahar Azmi, and senior staff attorney, Catherine Gallagher. Before we begin, I just want to go over some housekeeping. We're recording the event. If anyone needs a link to the recording, please email me, Jen Nessel, after. Just so you know, we disabled the chat for attendees so as not to distract our speakers. And once our speakers have finished, we'll open the floor for questions from the press. Please use the Q&A feature on the bottom of your screen to type your questions, and I will read them out. If you have follow-up questions, need a one-on-one interview, or anything else, please email me after press@ccrjustice.org. Now I'll turn it over to Wael.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to this press conference. We're holding this press conference on the day of the hearing of the case Defense for Children International, Palestine versus President Biden, his press secretary and Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense. We heard the case today in San Francisco 9th Circuit Court of Appeal. I'm here with a few of the plaintiffs and two of the lawyers from the Center for Constitutional Rights. My name is Wael El-Bahesi. I'm also one of the plaintiffs that are present today. And I just want to say that it is unfathomable that we are still here today. The original case was filed back in November and was heard in January. Back then, we argued that there is genocide, and we wanted the president and the executive branch to be held accountable and responsible. And what we asked for an injunction to stop the genocide, to stop this administration from sending weapons that were killing our people and enabling genocide. The death toll since have risen. Back then, it was a little over 10,000 people. We said that a genocide wasn't going and is going to continue if nothing was done. We said that, and with evidence, that the health system was largely destroyed, that the schools are destroyed, that mosques and churches and infrastructure is being devastated, and that people are being killed every day. Here we are 6 months later, and genocide continues with the same intensity, with the same cruelty. The death toll have risen to north of 40,000. We know that many, many more people will most certainly die just from famine and lack of medicine and the ongoing siege and death. The health system that was largely destroyed is all but completely destroyed now. There are no schools to go to. There's no life. The scale of destruction is massive and it's almost complete. We're here to continue to argue or demand that this administration does something about genocide, that it be held accountable. And the government argued then, and it keeps arguing now, as they did this morning, that the government cannot be held accountable anyway whatsoever, that this is a matter of policy and they can do whatever they wish, which we find incredibly disturbing if it actually is allowed to stand. Since last time we were in court in January, I had lost more cousins. My cousin Rab'a and Nasser, their daughter, 7 of the grandchildren were murdered in another bombing. Many of my family members have left. People are trying to flee because they're fleeing death They're literally trapped in a killing field. And those who are fortunate enough to cross the border and make it to Egypt, and I'm talking to other plaintiffs about similar stories, they seek immediate medical help. So we have a whole population that basically needs urgent medical care. And imagine this happening in any community, but nobody can get it because hospitals, whatever is left of them, are attending to amputees and people with devastating injuries. So again, we're here and we're going to continue to be here and demand the same thing. We want and demand, and we think it's our right, that this government stops funding and arming and enabling genocide. I'll turn it next to Bahar Azmi, who is the legal director for Center for Constitutional Rights.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Al. Today was a remarkable day in court, situated as it is as part of a historic effort by these incredibly courageous Palestinian American plaintiffs who collectively have lost hundreds of family members in the ongoing genocide in Gaza, and who are representative of and speak for millions of Palestinians and people of good faith across the world who cannot believe what we are witnessing in real time that has been propagated by the United States. So they came to court today and before to charge the Biden administration with genocide, or more precisely legally, complicity in aiding and abetting in genocide, because of their unflagging support for the obvious genocidal campaign of the Israeli government by sending billions of dollars of weapons of mass slaughter, starvation, destruction being intentionally and knowingly used on a civilian population for the purposes of effectuating the genocidal campaign to destroy the Palestinian people in Gaza. And the government didn't come into court today to dispute that there's an ongoing genocidal campaign. After all, how could they? It is open and notorious. It is fully on record. Experts in our case have said they've never encountered such clear statements of genocidal intent by leadership before. It is unmasked, and the Biden administration has known about it from day one, yet they continue to perpetuate it. Even when, unlike in prior genocides, there is actually an opportunity to stop it now, not look back in horror and regret, as we will inevitably do, even more so because we forfeited the opportunity to stop it in advance. So what the government lawyers did actually just one government lawyer waltz into court today, making the shockingly arrogant and lawless claim that if the Biden administration chooses to support genocide, the open and notorious genocide, there is nothing at all that the law or the courts can do to stop it. It's an argument that power knows no law. It's a somewhat familiar argument, one deployed by what would have thought the Biden administration would have criticized, deployed by the Bush administration after 9/11 and the Trump administration most recently. And these arguments are no different. It's an argument that power trumps law, that we get to do what we want, that impunity trumps human rights, even as we hold ourselves out hypocritically and borderline farcically as a defender of human rights and so-called Western values. Now, the courts stopped the worst excesses of the Bush and Trump administrations, and the question for us today is whether this court will change course, abandon principles of judicial review that have been with us from the founding of the country and have carried through at least up until now, will they change course and abandon those principles and give the Biden administration the blank check? They seek to ignore law, to ignore human rights, and further the mass slaughter of a civilian population. And so will there be accountability at law when there's an opportunity to stop it, or just accountability in history where this administration will no doubt be condemned for their cowardice and for their complicity? Ayman?
Thank you. Today was a historic and healing and liberating day that we as indigenous people of Palestine, we went into the court to speak up and to speak our heart, to speak our minds, our soul for our brothers and sisters who are really languishing and really in the most live-streamed genocide, the most well-corroborated, well-substantiated genocide in human history. But I want to go back to that the genocide, the slow motion genocide did not start in October 7 or October 8, but in 2020, I was 18 years old and my friend lost his daughter, 4 months baby, in a shell on her back. That was slow motion genocide, 2001. Her name is Muna Al-Hijju. So when we talk about slow motion genocide, also the accelerated slow motion genocide from 2007 until now, we are talking about accelerated genocide. As of now, and it is extremely important because they are our compatriots, our children, that will be the pillars of our independent Palestine state. We have more than 15,000 children who have been obliterated from the face of the earth. We have more than 17,000 children who are accompanied by one of their family members, and we have a lot of missing and disappeared children inside the Gaza Strip. And those who were killed, those who killed the children, they knew very well that Gaza is the largely densely populated place on earth. And in each kilometer, we have at least 6,000 people. Like if you hit a missile, you know deep inside that you will hit a lot of kids in a country or in a strip that is 52% are children. So, and those were murdered without compunction, without remorse, without contrite, and in the most live stream genocide in human history. That's why we are here, not also to speak also about cultural genocide. We have 3 churches that have been either partially or completely destroyed, or about the schools for the starvation of the brain for our students, for our university students, about our universities that have been also obliterated from the face of the earth. We are also talking about not even about the starvation of the brain, but also about the current starvation of our brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, cousins, nieces. All of my entire family are in Gaza. And also the lack of communication is extremely important, because the lack of corroboration of human rights cases is extremely important. Well, like when you do a scorched earth tactic on a small town, and it means that like you burn, you kill everyone, there is no for evidentiary letters. So that's why we are here appealing the appeal court. And we are here to seek justice, to seek repatriation for our indigenous people on their own indigenous land. We need justice, and that's why we are here. And we thank everyone in this world that there is an ocean of solidarity, an ocean of love for our own suffering, for our own plight that has been for the last 75 years.
My name is Bassem Alkara, and honored to be one of the plaintiffs. I wanted to thank the legal team and all of our supporters around the world that have been following this case. The genocide continues, the massacres continue, the famine continues. Biden's complicity in genocide continues. Blinken's complicity in genocide continues, and Defense Secretary Austin's complicity in genocide continues. Joining this case was the least that I could do to try to save my family members and our people. When we first filed, I lost a few dozen family members at the time. Just last week, we lost 10 in one attack, bringing the number to over 90, with many still missing. We will continue putting pressure on the administration to stop this genocide. We will, continue protesting. We will continue putting political pressure. And with November around the corner, we are informing all elected officials out there that, we personally putting them on notice, our community is putting them on notice to see how they respond. And it is not too late to try to push this administration to stop this genocide. And in November, we shall remember. I'll turn it over to Katie Gallagher, one of the attorneys in the case.
Thank you. Katie Gallagher, Center for Constitutional Rights. In the aftermath of World War II, with the horrors of the Holocaust, with 30 million civilians dead, the United States took a leadership role in saying that moving forward, we were not going to have the death and the destruction in the name of war that happened then. The U.S. was a key architect in drafting and enacting the 4 Geneva Conventions and the Genocide Convention. At that time, the commitment was never again. Never again will a people be targeted because of who they are for destruction in whole or in part, through killing, through the intentional infliction of conditions of life like mass starvation, destruction of homes, schools, necessary infrastructure like access to water. The U.S. said never again. It ultimately ratified the Genocide Convention. It outlawed the act of genocide and complicity in genocide. And indeed, it was Joe Biden, when a senator back in the 1980s, who made sure that the U.S. ratified the Genocide Convention and outlawed that conduct. Here we are in June 2024, 8 months into a genocide that is being enabled and furthered with U.S. weapons. And we were in court today and heard the Biden administration's lawyer say that we can commit genocide without any kind of accountability. There is no check on us, no law, when we decide that the policy we want to support is genocidal. That was a terrifying, frankly, terrifying proposition to read in their briefs and then to hear told to judges today. The International Court of Justice already ruled that there is a plausible genocide in Gaza. We were backed by the world's leading expert in genocide, William Shabas, back in November, already warning that the duty to prevent genocide had kicked in. So today, with so many tens of thousands dead and literally millions facing starvation, we call on the Biden administration to stop sending the weapons. Already it has sent more than 1 million bullets for use in Gaza. It has sent tens of thousands of munition kits for use in Gaza. This is aiding and abetting genocide. And we call on the court to make it clear that all people, whether you're Palestinian or any other group, that you have the protections of the Genocide Convention and the protections of law, and that whoever you are as a perpetrator, whether it's Joe Biden or his Secretary of State or Defense, you also will be held to account to the law. And if you aid and abet genocide, the court can stop that conduct. Thank you. And now we will hear a voice note from one of the plaintiffs in our case from Gaza, Ahmed Abu Artema.
My name is Ahmed Abu Artema. I am sending you this voice note from Gaza. I have lost everything, but when I have a little bit of internet access, I look to see what's happening in the United States and if Biden will do anything to stop this genocide of my people and my family. When Biden said he drew a red line around Rafah, where I had been displaced, I didn't believe him. I knew that I wouldn't be safe there. I moved again, and I was right too. Israel invaded Rafah, killing more Palestinians, destroying more thousands of homes, crossing every red line. Once more, there were no repercussions. Biden still sends weapons. I think about my life before this genocide and everything we did to try to bring the world's attention to our cause. I was a lead organizer of the Great March of Return in 2018. Tens of thousands of us marched every single week to end the siege on Gaza and demand Palestinian right of return. We were met with snipers and other attacks. There were 7,000 injuries. Hundreds resulted in amputations. I used to say the occupation was going to leave an entire population disabled. I cannot believe that now, years after our protests were ignored, we are talking about the extermination of our population. A missile targeting our house in October killed 6 members of my family, including my 13-year-old son Abdullah. I was so consumed by agony that I could scarcely feel the pain of the second-degree burns covering my own body. Then in March, Israeli forces blew up my apartment in Khan Yunis. I am now, like, like everyone else in Gaza, homeless. We are displaced from one roadside to another, seeking a place to sleep. I sleep on sidewalks, or what used to be sidewalks, in cities I barely recognize that have been bombed by US supplied weapons. To hear that the Biden administration is saying in court that it has the, dis- the discretion to continue supporting Israel's genocide and mind-boggling. It's a reminder that in their eyes, the lives of my people are worthless, but we have no choice but to resist this dehumanization.
Thank you. Now open for questions. The first question says, thank you for your comments today. I'm wondering, were you surprised by the judge's response in court today? And the questions for your side, did you expect how they worded their responses based on your experiences with Judge White and knowing that two of the judges are Republican appointees?
I think what we heard today in court were questions, important questions. What I think we're more eager to hear is the answers than even the questions. I don't think there was anything particularly shocking for me in terms of the questions that they asked, which really pushed up against where law and policy, where that line is. I think one thing I would have liked to have heard was more sharp recognition of the absolute legal prohibition of committing genocide. And that is something that, again, I hope to see in the written opinion. But we had an engaged bench who asked thoughtful questions about some of the key legal points in this case. And it was a very different kind of hearing than the one before Judge White in January, which was both a legal argument and then a evidentiary hearing where Judge White had the benefit, which the appeals court didn't, of hearing from the plaintiffs and understanding in human real time what genocide is, and also hearing from a scholar of genocide and Holocaust studies that this genocide unfolding is more than a classic textbook. It's actually shocking in how clear the genocidal statements were back in October. So Judge White had the benefit of that testimony and that evidence before him to make the findings he did, that there is a plausible genocide and that there is, quote, unflagging U.S. support. That is all in the record before the Court of Appeals, and we hope that they give it deep consideration. Bahar?
Another question. You requested that one of the judges assigned to the case, Judge Nelson, recuse himself, and he did. Why did you do that, and do you think it made a difference?
Yeah, we learned that Judge Nelson, Ryan Nelson, was one of 14 United States judges, including 3 judges on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals who were taken on a sponsored visit to Israel to meet with the IDF forces and lawyers and government officials for the avowed purpose of trying to influence U.S. judicial opinion. He went on that trip, and interestingly, the trip occurred in not October 8th or 9th, in March, during peak genocide. And after this case had been docketed in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, this organization sent 3 judges who might be called upon for the avowed purpose of influencing their opinion. We learned that Judge Nelson was one of the judges on that trip and invoked the ethics requirements and the law regarding the appearance of partiality and put all of the evidence before the court and Judge Nelson. And we appreciate that he made the ethical decision in this case because it's hard to imagine how anyone would not question his potential bias in a case like this, when he had been exposed to the specific arguments that have been and legal questions around Israel's propagation of a genocide.
This question, I think, is for the plaintiffs. Do your family members in Gaza know about this case, and do you know what they think of it?
I think some of our family members know, but the majority don't have internet, and so they're cut off from the world. And we haven't been in touch with so many, unfortunately.
Yeah, the same here.
The family members that I've been in touch with, I've told them about it. They know about it, and they're extremely appreciative. Generally, when I speak to family members in Gaza, whenever part of it is like we feel like we're not doing enough or can't do enough. So I show my cousin Mazouza all the time photos from rallies and videos, and the response is incredible. That they truly appreciate this, and this is one of the efforts. Primarily because they feel seen and they feel heard. They are truly under siege and have been under occupation for decades and siege for the past 17 years. And they feel alone and unheard and uncared for, which is largely true by the world powers. So they truly appreciate and value all the work and activism, and also a case like this that speaks for them and on their behalf.
Did you want to answer, Iman? You know.
No, I really think it's extremely hard to reach out to most of our families because most of them are internally displaced from the north to the central area or to the south of Gaza. And also a second issue, the Palestinian cellular company, Jawal, is really stopping. Like you have like literally 20 minutes. Like sometimes people like my brother, once he went into the sea, like to raise his cell phone just to hear my voice and say we are okay. So it's extremely hard to tell them when you want to know about if they are alive or dead, to just tell them, okay, we are appealing or we are suing a sitting US president, because they really deep inside every child in Gaza knew that the United States is complicit in genocide, and complicit in also not also in genocide, and not also with the United Nations Security Council, with the ceasefire resolution, with the International Court of Justice, with the International Criminal Court. We have so many laws against Israel inside. So people like they have a sense of oblivious or ambivalent about like that kind of issues, if I can analyze how they feel. But hopefully one day they will see that we are not we will not give up on our rights, and we will fight in peaceful ways, in legal ways, to articulate our self-determination, and we want to stop because we have no luxury to stop on it.
Thank you. I'll combine the two last questions. One is, considering the gravity and seriousness of the ongoing genocide, how soon should we expect an answer in this case? And the other question is, what will you do if they rule against you?
This is an appeal that we've asked to be on an expedited schedule. So we had the hearing, although it seems so slow and so long, when the circumstances on the ground are so urgent. In the timelines of the Court of Appeals, it's actually fairly quickly. So I am hoping that we will have a decision, a very thoughtful, considered decision within the next couple of months, if not sooner. And I think what we're hearing today is that there is no option but to continue to go on, should we not win at this juncture, and continue to press for the President of the United States to be held accountable under domestic and international law to not be able to aid and abet a genocide. We're not at that point yet. We remain hopeful that the judges have heard the facts, heard the binding law, and appreciate that they have the opportunity to stop death, destruction, and efforts to eviscerate Palestinian life in Gaza. So we hope that they respond to this charge and give us a decision at this next level to stop the weapons going to a genocide.
Okay, no more questions. Thank you all very much.